That's definitely interesting. So, I mean, obviously, with something that complex, there must be some kind of systems in place to kind of delegate and to divide and conquer and to chew it up into smaller bites. So, again, let's say I'm that customer. What
Yeah.
systems are you going to help me to create to kind of overcome that?
Great question. Okay. So, and I'm sure you do this in your work too, right?
Mhm.
So, you know how in the process of building a brand, I think we first start with these questions around who am I? What do I want to accomplish? What
Mhm.
problem do I solve? What's my personality and brand for my brand? All these things, right? But part of the work that I do is target audience analysis. So
Mhm.
when clients come to me, they go, we think we have a really good understanding of who we're supposed to serve. And I go, great. Can we poke some holes in that to make sure?
Mhm.
And they go, yeah, let's do that. And I go, we're going to look at this from the lens as if A, we're coming in blind. And B, I want you to look at it from the lens of revenue generation, not who you like to serve, but revenue generation for a
Mhm.
second. Often what happens is you find that if a client comes to you and they say, Kate, I serve 45 to 60-year olds. Oh, and I also serve 30 to 45-year olds. Oh, and I also serve
Mhm.
18 to 30-year olds. I go, whoa. So
Yeah.
basically, you're serving everybody.
Mhm.
And they go, well, yeah. So the first thing that you have to actually ask yourself is reckon with the truth of this is great brands do not serve everybody.
Mhm.
They do a really good job at serving a small minority that becomes their majority of revenue. Um, so I always have a rule of 70%. Chanel, if you were to look at where your revenue came from,
Mhm.
I want your message to speak to where you think 70% of your revenue comes from, with
Mhm.
acknowledgement that 30% of your revenue can come from other people outside that core audience that you're targeting. And you're totally fine with that. For example, for me, I serve small businesses predominantly.
Mhm.
Does that mean I'm not going to work with a mid-size or enterprise level company? No, but I'm not going to actively go out and market to them the
Mhm.
way that I do small businesses. And I'm all right with that. So for you, same rule could apply.
Mhm.
You know who's a really good example of who did this brilliantly and grew their market share? Facebook.
Mhm.
Okay, does anybody remember when Facebook launched, right?
Yeah.
First
I-
off, Facebook launched just first off way in Harvard, then it expanded to East Coast schools. And then in 2004, my freshman year at college at the University of Minnesota, we were one of the first like 50 to 100 campuses, right, that got like Facebook.
Wow.
You guys even remember that Facebook was just for college, hence the name?
Yeah.
Oh, and then they got so good at doing colleges, and you had to have a .edu email to sign in, or you couldn't even get on the platform. Then, when their market share, they blew up that market, then they expanded to the next one. So then they went to other populations, right? And then do you remember when your parents came on Facebook? You're like, no. Well, now Facebook has a totally different group that they serve. So why am I talking about this? Let me go back to the beginning of the question. How do I deal with this, Kate, if I'm serving like these totally disparate or different audiences? I think the question is one, am I comfortable serving just one or two of them to start? Two, which ones actually are the path of least resistance to revenue,
Mhm.
who have the highest likelihood of buying, who understand and value what I'm delivering the most, who don't need to be convinced, but will just convert. I think if you can answer those questions, often what happens is instead of you having 3 to 5 very disparate audiences, you find that you can really build a brand that wins work by targeting one, maybe two.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you. Now, using Facebook as an example, I always look at Facebook as a legacy brand in the sense that, okay, they started off with people that were in college, and then they morphed and grew while these people were growing as well into their businesses. And as they continue to grow, they'll continue to morph, and then what they'll do is they'll make a new model, Instagram, and go after their kids. And then as the kids grow, then they're going to probably buy another model. What's up, right? So then they have these three different age groups, these three different age brackets that are cohorts that are always going to be morphing and growing, but they're
Right.
selling to all three of them independently and differently based upon what the platform does.
That's completely right. Yeah, you're spot on. And for us, our brands, even if we're a small business, even if we're a consulting brand, right? You're like, well, I'm just a solopreneur. I just consult. I do B2B services. I think the same rule of thumb applies. You really just have to go back and ask yourself, am I trying to serve everybody or am I just doing a really good job of serving one audience
Mm-hmm.
really well? Because great brands are really hinged upon this philosophy that you are not in the business of convincing, you're in the business of converting. Your job is to not convince everybody to work with you. Your job of your brand, and for you as a founder and entrepreneur, is to convert the ones who resonated with your message and just do a really good job at having your pipeline full of those few
Yep.
and just close them.
Yep. Numbers applied. I mean, the rules and numbers always
Yeah.
apply. The 80-20 rule for sure.